Alright, quick update on green Satoshi token. So, it seems like that explosive breakout to the downside that we were talking about in our last video is in play. 3 days ago, we were basically saying our target's been hit. What is the next target? And we were calling for this 54% move to the downside, all the way down to 5.26 cent. Now, within only 3 days, we've already moved down 16%. So very, very nice so far. Once again, this was a 54% drop that we're predicting. I still think this is definitely in play. Another 45% drop to the downside is what I think is likely to be occurring. So when we did make our last video, we were right here. We were basically at the point of inflection of this asymmetrical triangle. When you do zoom out, you can also see this is a massive bearish pennant. I do believe when we draw the price target of this though, this is in the minuses. So obviously, yeah, it's way beyond the minuses. So obviously this target would be invalid. We're not going to go to minus price targets. It's not going to happen. But nonetheless, we can still look for much lower price targets in the short term. Once again, if we discount the bearish pennant and just look at this as an asymmetrical triangle, the next leg to the downside, well, there's a couple of legs before then, but 7.86 cent, that is what we should be expecting in the short term. This would be about 17% drop to the downside. Now, you may notice as well that we do have this orange box just before we do reach this breakdown target. We do have a 3.618. We've actually got a double 3.618 fib right here. So this is what this orange box constitutes at this moment in time. If we do zoom out, you can see that we have a couple of fibs drawn from our most recent lows to our highs in our most recent moves. We very well respected the 1.618 on one of these Fibonacci, so I have no doubt in my mind that we could definitely see somewhat of a bounce or somewhat of a kind of crab market as we do come down to about 8.8 cent down to 8 cents. So what do I think is going to happen in the very short term? I definitely think we're going to come down and lollygag around the 8 cent level. I think we're coming down here very, very soon. Like I said, we were talking about this explosive move that was very, very likely to happen very soon. And we've already had a decent amount of the move to the downside so far. So in that regard, nothing has changed in the higher time frames. On the daily, the on-balance volume, the OBV, is massively heading to the downside. If we do look at our momentum indicators as well, you can see on the... Let's start off on the daily time frame, and then we'll head over to the lower time frames. That makes sense. So on the daily time frame, this is what I'm talking about with, you know, a lot of people were looking at this and probably thinking, you know, 16% of the move has already happened. It can't get much more explosive to the downside, right? Well, in my opinion, it's only just getting started, because if we do look at the squeeze momentum indicator, bear in mind, I've had to heavily zoom in just so I can see what's going on here. I mean, if we zoom out, when in doubt, zoom out, you can see most of the trend over on the squeeze momentum since the 7th of May has been wholeheartedly in favor of the bears. We basically did reside and capitulate back up until the heart line, and then it seems like obviously the bulls are now getting capitulated and we're heading to the downside over on the squeeze mom in approximately 2 days. I do believe that we are going to be witnessing a bearish flip on the squeeze momentum indicator on the daily time frame, and this is going to allow so much momentum to come into the market. What also conveniently lines up with that potentially round about a 2-day breakdown. Bear in mind, you know, that's an estimate. I don't have a crystal ball. It could be 3 days. It could be tomorrow if we do continue to heavily capitulate. But nonetheless, I do think that within the next 3 days, we are going to have the next CPI, Consumer Price Index, meeting, or we're going to have the CPI results on Wednesday. We normally capitulate into that. So in my opinion, you know, this breakdown has only just started, and Monday, Tuesday, even what we're witnessing now on Sunday is just going to be a parabolic run to the downside for green Satoshi token. I could imagine on the CPI meeting, we could reside at around about the 8 cent for a prolonged period of time. But if you do see a breakdown below 8 cent, and then you see the move below 7.8 cent, which is this asymmetrical triangle breakdown, you're really only going to see a huge move to the downside, because there's nothing to stop it from round about 6 cent all the way down to our price target of 5.24 cent. The money flow indicator is very much stagnating right now. We're basically at the same price we were on the 14th of May, and you know, I don't need to zoom back to the 14th of May. You know, I'm sure you can tell if I have to flatten the data this much that we can't even see what price we were on the 14th of May. That should be very, very telling that, you know, whenever this does happen, whenever you do capitulate from the heart line of the money flow indicator, large amounts of retail money will flow back out of the market. In my opinion, the MFI is showing extreme weakness right now. And also we have to zoom out to see what is going on with the squeeze mom right now, or not the squeeze mom, the MACD rather. The MACD is heavily running out of volume. It is starting to capitulate very quickly, considering the squeeze momentum indicator is somewhat of a lagging indicator. It takes a larger amount of time. It needs to break below important Fibonacci levels. It needs to break below important points of control, and it normally needs to bounce up and get rejected from moving averages, EMA ribbons, which are just moving averages anyway, for it to start having that capitulation. Like I said, it's a slow mover, but the fact that the MACD has been heading down for a while, and now the squeeze bomb is starting to head down, this should be indicative that we would be experiencing an explosive breakdown very soon. Like we're not already experiencing an explosive breakdown. I mean, like I said, about 16% down since our last prediction 3 days ago. In my opinion, you know, the MACD right now is heading right up to the heart line, and if we do start switching bearish, bear in mind we've got so far to potentially head down to the downside. We're sitting at approximately minus 0.15, and the last time we bottomed out over on the MACD, we were down here at 80. So we could literally capitulate about another, well, it doesn't accurately display the drop over on the MACD for some reason when you do measure it, but we could have a massive drop to the downside is all I'm trying to say. So the momentum indicators on the higher time frames are not looking good, and also once again looking at the market structure, it's not looking too good. I'm going to switch over to the Heiken Archis in just one moment, but I do also want to show you the lower time frame momentum indicators and really tell you why I think this explosive breakdown is happening very soon. If we also switch over to the Heiken Archie candles on the 4-hourly time frame to better characterize the downtrend, smoothing out the dead cat bounces, and we should be able to see very easily what the direction of the trend is. Now, at this moment in time, the money flow indicator is heavily capitulating on the 4-hourly time frame. It does look like it wants to bounce. Bitcoin as well on the 1-hourly time frame is sitting at a key pivotal moment. The more we drop from where we are right now, if you're looking at this chart and you haven't, if you're not a seasoned veteran of my channel, this is hidden bullish divergence that is playing out on the 1-hourly time frame for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin might want to bounce over the next couple of hours. I wouldn't bank on it, because when we do go over to the higher time frames like the daily, we're actually witnessing hidden bearish divergence, which has been playing out since the 13th of June. So playing out for almost a month now. Bitcoin looks like it wants to heavily capitulate, in my opinion, and this is going to allow green Satoshi token enough momentum to come down very quickly to my price targets down here at 5.2 cent. I feel like every time I make a bearish prediction for green Satoshi token, I feel like I'm being too bearish. You know, if you are a seasoned veteran of my channel, you'll know that basically video after video after video, I predict 60% drops, 50% drops, 70, 80% drops, and it seems like within a couple of weeks, they always get hit. So, you know, once again, this is just proving that the volatility of green Satoshi token is very high. I do not think this is a good long-term investment. I think if you can buy it at a pivotal moment towards the bottom of the bear market, you can definitely make some amazing gains. You have to bear in mind that green Satoshi token is a utility token for the STEPN green metaverse ecosystem. Subsequently, people that participate in that Web3 game, they are going to get rewarded in GST. That is why the inflation is so high. And we talked about this before, you know, if we actually pull up the volume over on green Satoshi token, switch back over to the Japanese candlesticks, you know, the volume does look pretty decent, but nonetheless, it's not like we've got euphoric volume coming in at this moment in time. I mean, when we do zoom out to the massive run to the upside for green Satoshi token, you can see this was not heavily backed up by a large amount of volume, but at that moment in time, there wasn't a crazy amount of inflation, and the small amount of buyers in the ecosystem, pairing with the fact that it's got a low market cap, allowed it to go on these crazy runs from $2.69 all the way up to $9.44. I've said this in every green Satoshi token video, and I will continue to say it. These move to earn projects are not built to survive a bear market, especially the utility token ones, because once again they have a super high level of inflation, and it's just, in my opinion, not a good idea to hodl these for the long term. I've been saying this since about $9 to $10, and we're obviously down here at about 9 cents, so I really don't think I'm being too bearish. Once again, predicting we're going to come down to 5.2 cent at some point in time. The reason why I do cover this is because I do plan on buying it when I do believe the bear market lowers in, but this will be a swing trade. I'm a trader. I'm looking to make profit on this. I'm not looking to hold a utility token throughout an entire cycle. I don't think that's going to be a good idea, but nonetheless, if we do look at the lower time frames, the momentum indicators, 4-hourly squeeze mom is massively heading to the downside. It looks like we're getting a lot of strength in this downtrend. The most recent breakdown on the on the squeeze momentum indicator, it really wasn't too brutal. I mean, we only had about four hourly breakdowns, so about 16 hours worth of a breakdown, and you know, it was okay, but it did not last for too long, and then we started subsiding momentum. What we're seeing right now is an absolute inflection moment where we're seeing a parabolic run to the downside. There is a decent there's a decent amount of volume coming in. Like, once again, take it with a grain of salt, because like I said, the main reason why this massively drops to the downside is because it is a hyperinflationary token. But nonetheless, the momentum that's coming in, money is completely flowing out the market. On the daily time frame, you can still see this has been lollygagging at these oversold levels for a prolonged period in time, and people do not need to continue selling this for the price to massively head down to the downside. So definitely take that with a grain of salt. The MACD on the 4-hourly time frame almost got overextended. Well, I say it almost got overextended. It actually came up to the heart line, but most of the time, well, at least since the parabolic breakdown around about the 5th of May for Green Satoshi token, we've been permanently residing below the heart line, and every single time we come up to the heart line of the MACD, we get ready for that next leg to the downside. It does seem, if we do look at what's going on right now, you can see that we are getting light red bars coming over on the histogram for the MACD. The price, or not the price rather, the MACD is massively looking like it wants to push down to the downside. And this is the same on pretty much all time frames. You know, I'm not a fan of the 1-hourly time frame. I'm not going to check it out. I really only look at the 4-hourly and the daily time frame. But once again, I just want to show you the higher time frames for this so we can appreciate that really nothing has changed. I mean, to be honest, we can switch this over to the weekly to make it a little bit more clear cut and concise. But you can see on the weekly time frame, when you do add up the small amounts of volume week over week over week, you can definitely tell there are more sellers in the market than buyers. The OBV on balance volume is basically trending to 0. So definitely not looking good for Green Satoshi token. Volume is predictive of price, and we've got a large influx of volume in this market structure at this moment in time. Since the most recent breakdown on the downtrend, we have 10 weeks or 70 days worth of a solid breakdown, marking 7 weeks of just non-stop breaking down over on the Fibonacci candle. So definitely not looking good for Green Satoshi token. Like I said, the trend is your friend until the end on this one. I feel like on the daily time frame as well, we can pull up the EMA ribbons and they're just miles away. You know, if we zoom out, the EMA ribbons have just not caught up with the price, because the price is parabolically landsliding to the downside. So I would definitely advise caution if you are trading this, DCAing this. As you can see on the 4-hourly time frame as well, you really never catch up to the 4-hourly EMA ribbons, and when you do, it is always a sign that now is the time to sell, because the next capitulation is among us. And quite recently, bear in mind, we only started breaking down from these on the 8th of June. So we've only been breaking and losing the 4-hourly EMA ribbons for 2 days. The last time we had a run into these EMA ribbons, you know, sure, we had massive spikes to the upside, quick liquidity grabs, which I am not mentioning because I would prefer to talk about the candle body closes and, you know, a good amount of data within these EMA ribbons. You can see we lollygagged in these for a couple of days, from the 25th of June all the way up to the 26th of June. So, you know, just over a day or so, because this was around about 8 in the morning. This was up until about 4 p.m. at night, so just over a day or so. After that, we massively capitulated, and you can see the breakdown from here until we next came into the EMA ribbons. It was a solid breakdown for 7 days. I have to once again emphasize, we have only been breaking down from the 4-hourly EMA ribbons for 2 days now. I really don't feel like I need to go into too much detail. I don't need to pull up any more moving averages. I feel like when the TA is clear and concise, there is no need to overdo it. Looking at the higher time frames, looking at the momentum indicators, looking at the times where we come into our EMA ribbons, the volume on the higher time frames, and once again, most importantly, the momentum indicators, because these were these were basically the reason why we were able to so accurately call every single breakdown that we've been talking about so far on Green Satoshi token. So once again, very black and white in my opinion. Once again, as well, you know, I've said once again way too many times now, but we've been breaking down for 2 days. I think we've got a lot more room to go to the downside. Bear in mind as well, we have the next CPI meeting on Wednesday. We always break down into these. In my opinion, Bitcoin is only just starting its next major leg to the downside. If we do get high CPI over on Wednesday, that is just going to be extra fuel to the fire. I do believe at least up until Wednesday, we can expect another 3-day capitulation. We will reevaluate the markets for Green Satoshi token in the next couple of days. But for today, my friends, that is all I've got. It looks like we have been moving down very, very strongly since our last prediction. In the short term, yes, you have a small area of support between 8.8 and 8 cent. Would I be buying there? Would I be expecting a massive bounce? I would rather not be expecting something like that. In my opinion, after you capitulate beneath this low at 9 cent, I find it much more likely that we're going to completely rocket to the downside. Of these, yes, we can spend a little bit of time, maybe a day or so within this orange box, which constitutes both of our 3.618 fibs, but I find it much more likely to say that in the next week or two, we're probably going to be down here at our next major target at 6 cent, 6.28 cent to be precise. This is a major Fibonacci level, and also down here at my next macro low, which is all the way down at 5.21 cent. Now, just to wrap up this video, if we do break below that target, I'm obviously going to need another target to the downside. Let's see, 1.618. Let's mark these as white so we can see what we've actually got going on down here. Oh, okay, we've already done this before, so let's get that back. We've already marked this down. This is why I mark my orange rays. Oh, this is why I mark my Fibonacci targets with orange rays. So a lot of the time I can just look at the chart and I don't need 1,000,001 fibs. I can look and see that there is a orange line in the sand, and that to me is a Fibonacci target. Just like the 3.618 here, 1.618 here, 3.618, 3.618. All of these orange lines correlate to a Fibonacci level. And subsequently, if we do lose 5.21 cent, I really don't see a lot of support until 1.7 cent, which is an 82% drop. Am I predicting 1.7 cent right now? I'm not predicting 1.7 cent right now. I am predicting for 5 cent to be in play. As we get closer to 5 cent, I will once again reevaluate the market and let you know what I think is coming next for Green Satoshi token. That's all I've got today, my friends. And as always, cowboy out. Peace.